I've had, that I know of, that I can document, 2 failed inspections, or facility has withheld proper whatever is needed. What happens is there's the realm outside, because of my placement and what's going on world scale while I'm here. There is an extra layer of security. It almost looks like a supermax prison in cell block on the outside. And then there's what my visual cortex picks up on the inside, like an inside, it's like a foresight skin of reality. And then there's the hindsight that's just like a monitoring station on any differentials in the ebbing and weaving and superconductivity of what's going on, to make sure that they're not messing with anything. Now, I had one night when I was a teenager, I mean, there's been lots of breaches of security, but one particular night, I just woke up and I was in a courtyard, like a outside bricked courtyard, with, I think it was Niklaus, but I called him Don Saladino for some reason. I think David Lyons was there. Not the Christopher Lyons, Lyons, the David guy. But then I was outside with Niklaus, but Niklaus was like full size, I think. And then I got dizzy and confused, but I was weird because it's one of those, like, the outer Huntington was cloaked, and then him and I were like inner, but it still looked like it was outside. But there was like a red, the ROT in Tedesco, and the RED in English. On the inside, it was like a haze, HAZE, but it was like a momentary, like, I don't want to leave her, right? But, and then I'm like, what? And I was so disoriented. I was just like, wait, what? What do you mean you're leaving? Like, going where? Like, and then, so that was one, but that was a purposeful one, I think, because he needed to know where I was located, for other reasons. And then I had, I don't know, what was I, 15, 16, somewhere around the 17 maybe. It was before I moved back to Bayside. And then just last night, my tidal volume in my lungs, like my intercostals, are not like expanding, like it's just too much pressure on my rib cage. It's making it hard to breathe, but also the movement, it's like walking through it. It almost feels like you have weights on your thighs, and you're like, ugh, it's just, but it's not, it's the outside dimension, it's not. And it's the interactivity of, it's also like, like the mitochondrial has something to do with it. That's the MIT, and then it's the CH on the DRA. It's like, I need fixes. And then, so yesterday, I was having trouble with my breathing, which again, I'm having today, but yesterday in differential, the hindsight and foresight separated, which is supposed to be my safety net. When I see it blinking, it's like almost like a supersonic, like, but in a second, sight, like right in front of my eyes. Like I can see out, like the color spectrum, but then there's a black and white spectrum that works behind the color spectrum. Normally they're together, like, so you just see one, but when in emergency at the facility, it's supposed to separate and it's supposed to blink if nobody's picking up on the on whatever's going on over there. I mean, but now how do you, like, where do you call this in? Why is this like so significant, yet they let 42 years go by? I'm just curious. Now, I just wrote on, I sent to Michael Hilt, Michael Hewson, JC number 28, my Uncle Tommy, and Craig, I believe, my cousin Craig. Those, I have them on a one text for 5. So they all get it exactly at the same time. Then I have Claudia Dean and Tommy Speciale. All right, sometimes Brendan Burns and sometimes Maria, depending on the text. But my point is that when I first moved back to Bayside, my cousin Lynette, who has my Aunt Maria as a mother, and then has a what looks like Armin, so I'm going to say he looks Armenian in the eye, almost like the rabbi from the Money piece. So she wanted to meet some guy, Neil, that she knew. Neil knew some other guy, and they stopped at some gas station. They wanted to talk. Like, okay. So, right, and then the guy he was saying something about my grandfather, his grandfather. I'm like, right, okay. And he goes, no, now if I tell you, like, I'm cousins with Ralph Macchio. I'm like, I don't know who that is. I just moved to Bayside. I said, I grew up in Long Island. I said, you're going to have to. And he's like, right, no, he's over. And now I just saw it in Huntington. I was like, if you say so. And then he said, I think, like, I'm kind of like Bayside's, like, what if I told you, like, I was like the Karate Kid of Bayside in like a real way? And I'm like, I said, that would be interesting. I'd have to ask you though, you're so, like, I mean, you're not like a weakling like Ralph Macchio was in the movie. I mean, like, you're much more tall and handsome and strong. Like, why would you want to like train with the Koreans? So he started laughing, and he's like, really? He's like, that's what you'd say to me? I'm like, well, I'd say join the other team, like, you know. And he was like, the other teams, I was like, I don't know what they were. I was like, but I said, whatever the other team is where I would go, because I definitely would not want to be weak like Ralph Macchio. I wouldn't want to be seen in that light if I was a male. And 2, I wouldn't want to work with Koreans, for certain. They just give me a bad vibe. And he's like, he's like, you really are a very interesting person. And I was like, thanks. And he said, right, okay. He's like, thanks for the heads up. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. And that was it. So now I just sent on text, I took a photo of the Karate Kid, really the back of the COBRA uniform, the black COBRA uniform with the white guys, and that's the white guy team. And I sent out, like, again, you asked me when I was younger, I wouldn't have went with the MRI and the Korean team to make money, for certain. But apparently that's the career he chose. So I know in New York, because this goes back to my breach of security, there has been an influx of, like, when I was out in Long Island, the Jew was different. Like, I don't know, is it Jew, Hebrew? I don't know what the appropriate term is, and nobody seems to be able. I mean, Joe said I think he said he was Hebrew. And so I'll go with Hebronic, since I don't know what you all consider insulting or not insulting. I'm a Nick, so we'll go with Hebronic as a nickname for a moment until the Jews hash it out between what is a Korean Jew, what's Aramaic, what's Arabic, what's Jin in relation, who does she get along with? I'll tell you who she doesn't get along with. The assholes that are either Catholic, Protestant, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, whatever 1,000 of religions you could have possibly picked in the I don't give a shit category, when you have an I thing and you purposely move dangerously throughout the world and move your genetics and throw them at people who don't want them, we call that lawlessness where I come from. There is like pure, handsome like Joe, who looks more like pure stuff elsewhere, which I think would agree that if this is going to get confusing with what's an acceptable line, right, we're going to go on the pure everything in the different shades, and all of the ones with the lawless ancestors that couldn't keep their hands to themselves, we're not letting you in charge of the really dangerous equipment because you've already proved to be confusing and dangerous. So now why, when I made that very specifically clear, do we have such a problem? And why is my maximum security part, like who's watching over that? And if you tell me a Korean, a Japanese, anything Polynesian, anything with even a little twitch in the eye, like an Elon Musk, niet spasiba, 9, I don't want it. Elon Musk has too much banjo in it, in Polynesian territory, ding 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 ding, as does Warren Thompson. So now, to whom shall I address this last ditch effort to get a nuclear warhead in the correct facility?